Good evening, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for joining me once again on my journey of gaining a closer relationship with God. This is something that I'm doing for myself, and I have to start out first with my disclaimer that I am not someone of the cloth. I am not a pastor, I'm not a preacher, I am not a bishop. I have no ordainment within the church. However, I am a Christ follower and I am seeking to get closer to God by trying to understand some of these imageries and metaphors and parables in the Bible with today's context in mind. Hello, everyone. I am Queen, aka Dr. Williams, and I go by, first of all, that I am from enlisted to officer and a physician, but by the grace of God this week, or well, not this week, for this month, upcoming month, today is almost the last day of March. So I will be going through Psalm 91. Psalm 91 is a beloved psalm by many and is often quoted as the psalm for protection. But as you know, we went through Psalm 23. Last week, I went through the entirety of Psalm 91. And this week, I'm going to be going through breaking down one verse at a time. So we're going to be doing Psalm 91, verse 1 and 2 today. And again, what we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do, is to make the word more relatable instead of just memorizing the verses as I was raised to do. Hey, you just got to know this verse. But why? What's so important about this verse? And what does a lot of these things mean? So it won't be before you long. Again, I try to keep it between somewhere around 15, 20 minutes. Definitely no more than 30. I find myself going over sometimes, depending on the questions, if you have any. So let's jump right into Psalm 91, verse 1 and 2. So let me see here if I can find my Psalm 91, and there we are. So let's go into this without further ado. Psalm 91, verse 1 and 2. And it goes something like this. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In Him will I trust. So last week we kind of started off on this saying, okay, Psalm 91, we talk about who may have written it. Could have been, most give it to David, but it could have been Moses when they were going through with the Israelite in the desert. But needless to say, um, wanted to try and get through to you regarding some of these. And there it goes. When you go live, you have to do all these things. The homework we mentioned last week was he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High. Where is this secret place? Again, as a physician, and a scientist, we tend to break things down. But I don't think I'm alone, regardless of what it is that you do. If you're a school teacher or a lawyer or a bus driver, you still have these questions. You got to, he who dwells in the secret place. Well, what secret place is that? Where is a secret place? Shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty? Right? What shadow are we talking about? But before we jump more into this, let's take a look at some of the other translation of Psalm 91. So we look at the King James Version, which is the one that I was looking at, and he says this, he that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust. The New International Version, the NIV says, whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust. In the Christian Standard Bible, it then says, the one who lives under the protection of the Most High dwells in the shadow of the Almighty. Let's see here. Let me move me here. I will say concerning the Lord, he who is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. So let's break this down a little bit. He that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I'm sorry, I grew up Elizabethan. This is the King James Version, the New King James Version. That is what I grew up on. So I tend to gravitate towards it. That's why I try to provide other option and other translations as well. So, where is the secret place? Is the secret place churches, temples? Is the secret place up in heaven? Where do you think the secret place is located? Let me know. Drop a note. Let me know. Where do you think the secret place is? It's important. We keep saying these things over and over in rote memorization, but where is the secret place? The second part of that verse says that if you dwell in the secret place of the Most High, you shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I don't know about you, but to be in someone's shadow, you have to be kind of close with them, right? So, are you close with the Almighty that you know that you're in His shadow no matter what's going on? And if you're in His shadow, that means you're close enough to Him where He will protect you. Do you have that kind of relationship with God? And those are the questions I'm asking myself. Do I feel like I have that relationship with God where I know that I'm dwelling in the secret place of the Most High and that I'm in the shadow? So before we go to verse 2, the secret place, I believe, the secret place, where is the secret place? Now, again, based on my disclaimer, I am not an ordained anything. I am just trying to understand the Bible that's relevant, in a way that's relevant to me to contribute to my walk with God, right? So when it says that if I dwell in the secret place of the Most High, if I don't know where the secret place is, how can I dwell there? And you look at the word that they use, to dwell or to shelter or to be under. That's telling me that there's some kind of protection. So in order for me to dwell somewhere, to live somewhere, not only do I have to be in close relationship with God, but I have to be in some kind of proximity with Him. Now, you live somewhere, right? Be it an apartment, a home. Can any and anybody just walk in your home and dwell in your home? Of course not. You have to have a relationship with that person, and you have to um, give them permission, because even if you have a relationship with them, they can't just walk into your home and dwell there, right? So then I get to thinking, am I close enough to God to say that I'm dwelling in His secret place? Hmm. Am I abiding in His shadow? Do I have a key to the house, right? Because I have a lot of relatives, but they can't just walk in my home without respectfully saying, hey, I'm going through a hard time. Can I crash here for a little bit? Or letting us know in advance that they're coming by. But back to the question of where is the secret place? During Psalm 23, I had shared with you this one image here, and it's by Andrew Womack. If you go on YouTube or anywhere and just search for Andrew Womack, Spirit, Soul, and Body. And it is a phenomenal explanation and simplification of the difference between the body, the soul, and the spirit. That secret place, I think we're running around looking for that secret place, but that secret place where God dwells is inside of me. That secret place is inside of me. Now, the issue is with Me, I'm going to start with me because this is my Bible study for me. Maybe it applies to you, but as you could see in that picture here, the man in the green shirt looking in the mirror, that's the body. In the center, that's the soul, right? So that's your mind, will, and your emotion, sort of your consciousness. And as you can see, there's a barrier here. And back there is where the spirit dwells. And that's where the spirit is what communicates with God. So if my secret place is in the deeper self, not my soul, not that chatter that keep going on in my mind, it's deeper than that. It's the spirit. That's where God dwells. Now, I know some of you are going to have some issue with this, but remember in the Bible, it says that you are God, right? Not big G, but little g, and that he dwells in you. So if you're going to dwell in that secret place, you have to know the spirit part of you, the spirit man, because that's where God is. But we're so busy looking in the mirror at our body, listening to our mind, will, and emotion, that we don't get a chance to literally hear what the Spirit says, to hear what God is saying, to hear from the Holy Spirit. So when I go through Psalm 91 and I read, He who dwells in the secret place, I know the secret place is not the church, it's not a temple, it's not nature, it's not anything that we try to make it to be. It's not the car, it's not my home, it's not even my husband or the children, it's none of that. God dwells in me. And I have to get through all that muss and fuss and worry and issue and emotions and anxiety and get to find that beautiful part of me that is the spirit. So once I recognize where God dwells and I get to connect with that spirit, oh, that's where it's all at. That's where it's at. But let's go back. And I'm still on verse 1 and 2 here. Verse 1. So if I dwell in that secret place of the Most High, which is God that dwells in me, in the spirit part of me, the part that connects directly with God, the part that's pure, not my soulish self, not the selfish part of me, not not the part of me that is not connected with God. That is being transformed every day. But there's a part of us in the deeper seat of yourself, that's spirit, and that's where God dwells in that secret place. Do you know that place? Because once you discover that place and that God dwells in you and you know where that lovely place is, then you can connect with God. Then you know that you're in his protection. Then you can say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him will I trust. You know it's not your body. You know it's not your soul, right? That emotional part of you, that anxiety part. I know this is a little bit deep, but there's a third part of you, the spirit, that is trying to call out to you to say, hey, I'm in here. The pure part of you, the Jesus part of you, that's where God dwells. And that's where that's where I need to get into that closer connection with God. Hmm. Like I said before, not everyone can get into your home if they're not invited. And so you have to find that part of God. I have to find that part of God in me and connect with it. I've heard it explained to the point of that God part of you on the inside. The reason why they say that you are God's, not to be blasphemous, I am not saying blasphemy here. So please don't say I'm blaspheming. No, it's in the Bible. We are God. But what does that mean too, right? Because I have to say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In Him will I trust. Who are you trusting? How do you trust God? So this is it. You were with God before you got here in the spirit world. You are here and you're having a journey, right? You're a spiritual being having a human experience. And when you transition, you're going to go back to being with God. So during this moment, the spirit in you that you're trying to connect with is like if you get a cup of water and you pour that cup of water in the ocean. I dare you to try to find that cup of water. And that's why God says, come as you are, because no matter how muddy you are, how dirty you may think you are, all the wrongs you think you may have done, if what you have done that you think is so bad, if you put it in a cup, and let's say it's like a tea bag, it's brown or it's white or it's just dirty or it's just not clear pure water, but if you take that and you pour it in the ocean representing God here, you go right back to God and it's no more. You're lost within the spirit world. You're lost within the spirit of God. It's a little bit different. I know. But my mind works that way. I'm trying to get closer to God. I'm trying to understand God and the spirit of who I am and the true me. Because when you look in the mirror now, it's not the same body from 15 years ago. All of the cells from 15 years ago is no longer the part of the body that you are right now. Like all your skin, all of that has changed. So your body will continue to change, but the spirit part of you that connects directly with God, that's the part where he dwells, and that's the part that you've got to connect with. The secret place is not a building. The secret place is not a temple. The secret place is not nature. The secret place where God dwells is the spirit inside of you. So all the partying or the drugs or whatever it is, may be your pleasure, the fancy car or the big home or the money or accolades, be it lieutenant colonel or full-bird colonel or general or doctor or MD, whatever it is, that is not you. The you inside of you is the spirit that's been there since you were 7 and when you were 9 and when you were 12. That spirit has not changed. That spirit that God has poured in you, where when all is said and done, you pour that back into the ocean of God and you will become one with God. That's who you truly are. And that's why people have such difficulty trying to figure out who they are. But you will never know who you are until you know who you are in Christ. And that the secret place of God dwells in you. When you know that, then you can for all sure say, I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, which is that protection. He's going to keep me no matter what. And when this body fails me, I'm going to be poured back into the ocean and be back with God again. A little bit different. I know, but it gets you to thinking, doesn't it? The secret place is in you. So, questions. We already dealt with what does it mean to dwell in God's shelter. But here's the second part. Is it constant or is it conditional? Right? It should be constant, but it being constant is conditional on your relationship. My constant protection by God is conditional on my relationship with Him. I can't, like, love y'all. You can't just walk into my home. I'm like, no. So, in order to recognize that secret place, you have to have a relationship with God. And once you have that relationship with God, then it is constant. But the condition is, do you know Jesus? And do you have a relationship with God? And I had to pause at some point in my life and really examine this. Like, what kind of relationship do I have with God? Do I even have a relationship with God? And can I tell you, We are horrible at relationships. I am horrible at relationships because a lot of the relationships that we live by is what we made up or how we see examples of, right? In our family or our work, or we're just mimicking relationships and not the relationships that set example by Jesus in the Bible. So I'm working on being having better relationships. Yes. Yes. How does trusting in God as a fortress influence your view of life's challenges? It can be very tough sometimes, right? And everyone is going to go through a challenge at some point. We're all going to go through challenges. If you're not about to enter into one, you're in the middle of one, or just getting out of a challenge. But knowing that God is there for you and you have something to stand on, or someone to stand in the gap, or someone to be there for you, there's nothing like knowing that God is your fortress. It helps me to view life's challenges differently. And I remember, this is a personal, well, not personal story, but I remember when I first started in the cancer world. And little, like I said, I treat from 3 years of age all the way to, I think the eldest person I ever treated was like 95, maybe 97. But when I was faced with the tough question of, well, why is this happening to my baby? How can there be a God and this is happening to my baby or my child or my mom or whomever it is going through difficulties? There's no promise that we will not go through difficulties, right? And I think a lot of the issue is that we're not here to stay. And once we recognize that, then we'll be able to recognize that, you know, we're not here to stay, right? Remember, we discussed that earlier. From the beginning, we came from the spirit world. We are a spiritual being having a human experience. And then we're going to be poured back into that spiritual world where God, if you imagine God is an ocean, now God is bigger than that. But for our simple mind, if we can imagine being poured back into that ocean, we won't be able to find ourselves, right? We are part of God and God's a part of us. That's the place where I'm trying to get to. And so when I'm asked those tough questions, well, why does my 9 year old have cancer? What did my 9 year old do to deserve that? And I had to be honest. And it's like, well, I don't know. And I always invite parents and patients to go to God with those questions because I just do the scientific part of things. I don't have the answer. And I'll be one of those doctors who will tell you, I don't know. There's some things that are spiritual that's beyond me, and there's some things that you'll just never have the answer to. So until your time on this earth is ended, trust God. Have him be your fortress. Like, why not? And I know the skeptics. So again, in the science world, a lot of people I deal with are from that realm, and so are always the skeptics. So can reliance on a higher power be seen as psychological comfort rather than spiritual truth? My questions to these things, right? It's like, okay, well, psychological comfort. Well, where did psychology come from? I'm not quite sure why the scientific world try to pull things separate from God. Again, it's like you can't do that. Pouring that water, a cup of water in the ocean, I double dog dare you to try and find those particle of water that I just poured into the ocean separate from the ocean itself. You cannot separate science from God, the creator of everything. So, having a personal relationship with God is monumental. That's what I'm working on, and that's what this is all about here. And I see here comment, thank you, Thatcher, saying, he's the comforter. Yes, he is indeed. Thank you for sharing that. And we're all going to go through some difficult times, and I try to encourage people that You can't live off your parents' relationship or something. You have to build that relationship yourself. And that is so hard, y'all. That is hard because we picture God and the relationship with God or Jesus based on our human level of relationship. And it's not the same because I remember trying to say, well, God is my father and in God I trust. And I try to make God like my earthly father, but nothing could be further from it's different. So I encourage you to look at again, let's see here. Yes, to look at things as it relates to you where you are. And the contemporary perspective in this age of uncertainty, when it comes to pandemic, political instability, personal struggle, the verse just reminds us of the importance of finding peace and resilience in something greater than ourselves. And a lot of people have issues with that, something greater than ourselves. It challenges us to ask, where do I find lasting security? Is there such a thing as lasting security? And I could say there's only one place for lasting security, and that's in Jesus himself. That's in getting to know God, in building up that relationship, knowing that the body, what you see in the mirror, that's not it. And your soul, that constant chatter, that constant change, and you're having these big conversation in your brain to yourself, your mind and your emotion and your anxiety, and you work yourself up and you worry, and 90% of the stuff you worry about never even happened. But I invite you to take down that wall of the true, beautiful you, the spirit that connect to God. And that's where the Holy Spirit comes in helping you with that connection to God. And that's where we need to be. So, lovely souls. Psalm 91 is a psalm that is loved. It's a psalm that's seen as a psalm for protection. It's a psalm that's recited a lot during difficulties and trials. But I'm inviting you to go with me as I go a little bit deeper in trying to figure out, where is this secret place? How do I connect to the true spirit being of me? The pure part of you that's nothing but pure awesomeness. This has been a little bit different spin because we had to answer that very first question. He who dwells in the secret place, where is that secret place? I encourage you to look into that this week. Find that secret place, pray, ask God to show you the secret place and connect with Him there. He's always there. He's waiting on you. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to connect with God in that secret place because I want to say that the Most High, that's where I will abide under the shadow of the Almighty. And we're going to get more into this. But before you can enter into my house, before you can enter into God's house, you got to have that relationship. You got to know who He is, right? You can't just enter. You may get shot, right? God ain't gonna shoot you. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You have to have a relationship with someone before you can enter into their home. So work on getting to know God better. Build that relationship. That's what I'm working on because I want to be in that secret place with God. I want to say, this is where I am. I know that I'm protected. I know that I will be that He's going to protect me as long as I'm on this earth. I could enter into His home, into the house. I can enter into his presence because I have a relationship with Him. I'm working on it. I'm not perfect. I'm working on it. And all my other relationships are kind of falling suit. I'm working on relationships. You should do the same. Look, my time with you is up. Lovely souls. Do not die without discovering that you are nothing but pure awesomeness. The spirit in you is where the secret place is. Know that God loves you. He can't wait to connect with you. I know this. And when I say this, I'm talking to myself too. Like, oh, Jesus, help me. So much decision. You've got to enjoy your life, enjoy this world. This is a gift. This is a gift. And if I have learned nothing from my patients, is that life is precious and life is a gift. And I do not want to die with that music still inside of me, or I do not want to die without discovering that secret place. I want to connect with God. I want that relationship. I want this journey to be a long, fulfilling one. And I look forward to God being with me on this journey. I thank you all for joining me. I am wrapping up. It's a beautiful Sunday, and I thank you all for joining me. Again, this is Queen, aka Dr. Williams. I am a enlisted to Lieutenant Colonel physician, but by the grace of God, and this is my personal journey getting to know God better and improving my relationship one day and one Sunday at a time. Join me next Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern, where we're going to continue walking through Psalm 91. Next week, we're going to be doing verses 3 and 4. So take a look at that in different translation. And next week, let's have another chat about Psalm 91 and how great God is. Until then, be blessed and let the pure awesomeness in you come forth. Take care. Love y'all. Thank you, lovely peoples. Bye.